Good evening and welcome to the January 18th, 2022 school committee meeting. We are in the middle school, high school library. The meeting is being recorded and can be viewed on Mondays at 7 p.m. on Comcast Channel 8 or Verizon Channel 37. All meeting videos are also posted on the Millis Public Schools website under School Committee. All videos are also available on YouTube, and all times are, of course, approximate. I'm going to take attendance first. I am here. Mr. Conroy.
Here.
Mr. Catalano.
Here.
Ms. Gibbons is not here. Ms. Roach is also not here. Our teacher rep, Ms. Coppice, is here. Our student reps are not here tonight. And Superintendent Millis.
Here.
Right. And has anyone signed in for open session?
No.
Okay. Seeing none, then we will move on to our action items. Our first action item is consideration to approve the school committee meeting minutes from the 4th of January.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Conroy, or Catalano, sorry.
I make a motion to approve the January 4th, 2022 school committee meeting minutes. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Further discussion? In favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. Consideration to increase daily sub pay rate.
We are going to need a moment on that because the third vote just stepped away. Maybe
we should.
you can go through it.
Well, maybe why don't we have Ms. Coppice come
Oh,
up
yeah.
and we'll
That's
have
a good idea.
The teacher rep. Well, Mr. Catalano.
She's in a class anyway.
Sorry.
So she has to go back.
Yeah. Thank you for being flexible. Yeah. Nice.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. Thank you for being flexible.
I expect that, it's a dance background.
Yeah.
All right. So just a few things from my end of the world. Just a reminder from the Clyde Brown that walkers who are walking to and from school should be using the crosswalks. It makes a big difference. The 5th grade chorus concert that was originally scheduled for last week has been postponed. A new date will be announced at some point. And on Friday, on the full day of professional development, the CFD folks, both the staff and the paras, were working on the science of reading modules. They had a presentation by Hill for Literacy via Zoom, and they were reviewing the 3 core programs in their vertical teams. At the middle school, the 6th grade would like to welcome Ms. Sarah Johnson from Framingham State University, who will be working with Janet Shockley. The Spring Talent Show is getting ready to kick off, and it's being led by Ms. Hickey and Mr. Devine here. The 8th grade math students have been developing math skills to enable them to find distances on a coordinate plane using Pythagorean theorem. And they are using this knowledge to create a class quilt, which sounds kind of cool. Mr. Benham's 8th grade WIN class is programming, wiring, and building and constructing their NBA Jams arcade cabinets, and I can attest to that because I hear them in the afternoon. So it's exciting stuff up there. And at the middle school level, Trip Sickery is starting their rehearsals for their spring show on May 6th, so the students in grades 6 through 8 are welcome to join in for classes and rehearsals. They can see me if they have any questions. At the high school and at the middle school, on our full day, we had a full day of anti-bias training with a special presentation from the DESE Safe Schools supporting LGBTQ+. We had a great speaker, Landon. It was a Zoom, but it didn't feel like a 2-hour Zoom, to be honest with you. I probably could listen for another hour or 2. It was really, really well done. Our December students of the month were in grade 9, Andrew Griffith, in grade 10, Raisa Oliveira, in grade 11, Daisy Lyons, and in grade 12, Colin Streck. Last week on Tuesday, we had Carly Bushoven from Active Minds come and speak to us about suicide awareness and prevention. The 11th and 12th graders were in the auditorium socially distanced watching, and the 9th and 10th graders were in facilitated classrooms via Zoom, with everybody having an opportunity to send in questions, and that was facilitated by Allie Stallings, I believe as part of her senior project. The ASVAB will be taken on January 20th, which is Thursday. It takes about an hour and a half to do. The Peer Leaders Thrift Shop is also happening Thursday, so if anybody has any donations they want to drop off, there are some boxes in the front area. And the Leos are still hosting their winter garment drive, so also boxes in the office. On more academic notes, the anatomy and physiology classes started their heart dissections, so they could sort of in real time look at the structure and function relationships of the mammalian heart. And Breton Kohler was the winner of the first official week of the Staff Trivia Challenge. So I believe he guessed the contestant of the week was Miss Dunn. And then just in more gathering knowledges, the couple of the groups are doing soup for the Super Bowl. So soup collections are happening at school, so folks have soup they want to drop off. And then the only other thing on the district level is it looks like CPAC will be doing a presentation on February 8th around understanding IEPs and 504s. And that's what I have for tonight.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night.
You too.
And I have something from the TIES program. The TIES program had its first graduation today. Friend Long Nguyen graduated and is moving on to the next step in his journey.
Excellent.
Excellent. All right. We shall move back to consider the increase in daily sub-pay rate.
Did you get a memo on this?
I think we did, yes.
Yeah, I think there's one in left.
Yeah.
It's basically pretty simple. Every couple of years, in recent years, we do this. The daily sub rate for someone without a degree has fallen below the minimum wage that Massachusetts went to as of January 1st. A $10 increase will raise it above the minimum wage, not only for this year, but probably for next year as well, and I think maybe even beyond that. However, if we're going to raise the daily rate from $90 to $100 for the non-degreed people, we have maintained a $10 separation, and so I'm recommending we also raise the degreed substitute rate from $100 to $110.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Catalano.
I move that the Millis School Committee increase the daily rate for substitute teachers without a degree to $100 a day and increase the rate for substitute teachers with a degree to $110 a day. These rates will take effect January 1st, 2022.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Quick question.
Yeah.
Madam Chair. Mr. Wiggin, how does this, when we do this, we also check it against various hourly wages. Does this bump up against any hourly, specifically like para contracts or anybody else? Or does this put it?
More than what Paris
Mm,
or
yeah.
It doesn't put us more than any other, I did check our other staff contracts, doesn't put us more than any other starting staff wages. I'll double check that again, but I'm pretty
Okay.
sure we're up above 15 on all of the starting contracts.
Okay, great.
All in favor?
Did he second it?
Oh,
Yeah.
he did.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So,
Motion
and
carried.
that's written down below. Okay.
Okay.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's exactly, I read right from there.
All right, let's see, what's next? Consideration of the use of the marijuana fee?
Yes.
The impact fund.
Impact funds.
Yeah.
So as part of the town's FY23 budget, there's a portion of marijuana impact funds that come to the school. As I noted this year, we got a .60 FTE middle school adjustment counselor, .20 FTE bridge program teacher. We've kind of combined those two together into an adjustment counselor, with the adjustment counselor working with, a bridge type program. We have $10,000 for the after-school program to work on drug awareness, have a drug awareness program, and then $5,000 for the mental health program, the JED program. And we have a number of different pots of money that are contributing to fund that. So the administrative team talked about this at some length, and we've come up with the following proposals that we'd like you to consider and put forward as recommendations for this year. We do think that given the issues that we're seeing both at the middle school and the high school, that a full-time school adjustment counselor shared between the two schools is necessary and important. And so we're proposing a 1.0 FTE school adjustment counselor. The SEL, the middle school SEL program, which right now we are showing as part of the budget is absolutely one way or another a critical feature of the budget. We're recommending that be funded from marijuana impact funds. If that is funded from marijuana impact funds, while that's not our intent, it's obviously almost $70,000 that we can take out of our current operating fund proposal. We are asking for the installation of vaping detectors at all middle high school bathrooms. Vaping it's dangerous on a multitude of levels, but because you can also get vaping products with THC, which is the active ingredient obviously in marijuana, there's reason that we would obviously think that this, meets certainly not only the spirit of the use of marijuana impact funds, but the actual need for using those marijuana impact funds. And then we would like to continue the after-school drug awareness programming in the extended day program for our elementary youth, and we would like to continue to support mental health programming at $10,000 and $5,000 respectively. You will note the social workers not included here. The superintendent's had meeting with the town administrator. We've had joint meetings with a larger group. That position is going to go forward in some form or fashion. The town will be proposing it, but we are, I would dare say, significantly involved in the writing and creation of how that's going to work. So it's not like we're being left out in the cold here. If anything, we're driving that bus.
Okay.
So, but the town feels that it will probably go better if they actually propose it. We had great input from both chiefs, from the head of the senior center, and again from the town administrator. So, I think it will be a very strong proposal that will be put forward, and all of the finance committee's questions will be answered sufficiently that they will put it forward. And those are the proposals that we would ask you to recommend. And again, the social worker proposal will come at a later date. We did ask about whether or not we needed to have that approved tonight. The town administrator said no, that we'll ask for your formal support for that at a later date when we've pulled everything together.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Callahan.
Terry, thank you, and for you and Bob for the work that you've done on this. I have no issues or concerns with any of these positions. They make sense. I think they actually fit very well into the funding source. My only concern or question, and I think it's a rhetorical question, but every time we've come across either grant funding or one-time funding, we've been reluctant to hire staff because potentially the funding will go away. I think in this case, this funding is probably not going to go away. But could you speak to that? Because that would be my concern, is that we've already done it in FY22. We probably had this conversation when we proposed these positions, but as long as people come in eyes wide open, but I also don't want to start something that we can't finish, because these are important. So if we can't do it through this funding, obviously we want to try to do it through another funding. But is there some sort of a surety that this funding, maybe not for these exact positions, but this funding is not going to dry up?
The funding won't dry. Well, all right, so let me explain a little bit about how marijuana impact funds work now. And I say now because my guess is that this is going to change in the future as all communities get history with this, because everybody's starting off on this, everybody's learning. But right now, the impact funds can be used for up to 3 years to fully fund these positions. So we're in the first year of one of these positions.
In 22.
In 22. Some of these positions wouldn't even have hit the first year. So some of these positions, for example, in fact, it could be argued that all of these positions would be new and would be hitting their first year in FY23.
Okay.
So they'd be 3 years out. Now, there's a couple of things that would happen, all right, potentially. One, the law would change to extend the ability to use those funds on for a lengthier time. And I think that may happen, quite honestly, because you can't have a lot of communities sitting on these funds and have no place to use them. It just doesn't make sense. The second thing that happens, and I think you alluded to this in your question, is that so you may not be able to fund this position, but there may be something different that you fund, and essentially you swap expenses. So they will be able to move forward with essentially something being funded, covering these costs or their equivalent for an extended period of time. We certainly haven't taken a back seat to this. I think if anything, we had one of the positions that was proposed. We initially had some difficulty in our first round. I think recently we all of a sudden think we found several different options to fill that position. So we're quite excited that we will have that position filled shortly. And we will be good to go. Grants are a little different in that the grants obviously depend on the end date of the grant.
Right.
And honestly, who's in office?
But it's a functional equivalent, because if it's only for 3 years, for now,
Right,
I don't want to sit on these positions, nor do I want to not fund them
right.
because of that. But it is something to go into eyes wide open. I do like your
Absolutely.
approach that, who knows, maybe the money doesn't come through impact fund, it goes into the general budget.
Right.
And then we're increasing our ask and justifying it through that. So
Absolutely.
I just think it's something to note, and we've done this multiple times over the years when either specific funding sources or grants have come through.
And we do disclose to the people applying for these
Sure.
positions that it's grant funded. We want it to be transparent. We want to be.
I think they're excellent positions. I think you guys have stated in a very clear and concise way the need for that. So you guys good? Want me to go with the motion? You good?
Yeah.
Okay. I move that the Millis School Committee approve the proposed use of marijuana impact fees for the Millis Public Schools for the fiscal year 23 as proposed.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
I'll be back.
Thanks, Mr. Linden.
All right. We don't have any time in learning, so we'll move into the chair report, the metrics for
Okay, kind of like the COVID update.
COVID update, yeah.
This morning, the Commissioner of Education, the Director of the Department of Public Health, and the Governor announced a new program, testing program for schools that they are recommending schools opt into. And essentially, this program would provide participating students and staff with take-home antigen tests that they would take once per week and report any positive results to the school and begin isolation. And schools that participate in this program would no longer have to do contact tracing in the school, nor would they have to utilize test and stay, because people would be testing once a week. And kind of the background on that is the state looked at the data from test and stay and from contact tracing and found that the policies with masking and so forth in schools have kept schools relatively safe, certainly significantly safe when compared to other areas of public life. And the amount of effort that the nursing staffs and health staffs in schools have been placing on contact tracing and test and stay, that effort and energy would be better spent focusing on symptomatic testing, and this program would allow that to happen. It does put more of an onus on families to conduct the tests and notify the school if the test is positive.
Is the expectation that like Sunday families are testing before going to school for the
We'd,
week?
we'd need to work that out, but, you know, that would seem to make sense.
Yeah.
Matt,
Yeah, go ahead.
just because I saw some of the press conference, I think what the commissioner said in the press conference is districts would have the ability to basically pick what day. We don't use pool testing, but for districts who do use pool testing, the state was saying combine the two, so keep their pool testing day, and they could pick a different day. For example, if they do pool testing on Monday, the district could pick and say, do your at-home test on Thursday, so that it's given more. For us, without pool testing, we can
Check
pick.
whatever day.
Yeah.
Now, is the Board of Health still doing contact tracing, or is everyone stopping that?
So the Board of Health, and we had a health and safety meeting today, and the Board of Health is putting more of the emphasis on people who test positive notifying their close contacts rather than, you know, the Board of Health doing the contact tracing. During the surge, it's just become so so challenging and so widespread that this is the new strategy that they're using for contact tracing.
And the Board of Health was only being told about positives, unless you
Through
self-reported at
Maven.
the Board of Health,
Yeah,
unless it was a PCR or an, you know,
You had it done at a site.
that is done at a site.
Yep.
Otherwise, nobody was telling.
Right.
They didn't know, so you had to self-contact anyway.
yeah.
So do families need to opt into this? Bob?
Yes, they will need to opt in. There's a webinar tomorrow that will hopefully give us the information on how it's going to happen and what needs to happen. And basically, to become a priority district, you need to sign up by Friday with the numbers of your staff, and then the following week, the week of the January 24th, would be collecting opt-in information from families. And, you know, we would hope that the vast majority of families would opt into this.
Any other things from the health and safety meeting?
No, that was the conversation.
Yeah. And we also talked a little bit about athletics.
Oh, okay.
And, you know, there was, I would like to say a little confusion, but it was more than a little confusion about the Tri-Valley League policy with spectators and only allowing immediate family members of both home and away players into indoor sporting events. And apparently there were some TVL schools that opted not to do this. So that's created some confusion, and it's something we'd like to look into, perhaps opening up sporting events.
Okay, but as of
again.
right now, it's still.
As of tonight,
As of
right,
tonight.
yeah.
Okay, and more to follow on that.
More to follow, and I believe there's games tomorrow night. Is that
Yeah.
right?
Thursday boys, I don't know about.
Tomorrow,
Tomorrow's
girls.
the girls. And
So
that's home, right?
Yep.
So, you know.
And then Friday, there's a boys' home too,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
So have we confirmed whether the TVL policy was a policy to be adhered to or a suggestion?
Well, that's a $60,000 question. It came out from the athletic directors, and it was assumed that it was a policy, but it wasn't something that the principals had voted on. And so I think that created the confusion where some school leadership felt that this is not something that we voted for, so therefore we're not bound to do it. Again.
So because this is a question and we're talking about tomorrow or Thursday, so is there a policy from the TVL? Because if there's not, then like we as a district took the stance that the TVL,
Follow the TVL.
that we followed the TVL policy. If that was an inaccurate assumption position, then are we, then,
Do we need to make a policy?
right, like where does it stand? Because now because no one, neither the health and safety nor this school committee voted to make that a policy for the school. We were relying on it being a TVL policy. If it is a TVL policy, fine, then we keep going.
Yeah,
If
I would say, based on the information I got today, it's not a TVL policy.
Okay. So then, do we as a, what does the administration propose, the athletic department propose, and,
Yeah, I would like to be able to meet with the athletic department tomorrow and the principal and come up with a proposal moving
Okay.
forward. And I could share that with the committee.
So,
So maybe we assume that this week it's the same as we've been going, and, because
Well,
it's Tuesday. and
It is
has
Tuesday.
something-
I do think that the season's kind of winding down. And if we feel that we could safely have more fans in the stands for the kids, I'd like to be able to do that. And if it's something that, we can determine for tomorrow's games, I'd love to be able to do that. If we can't do it, I understand. But, kind of in looking at this whole kind of tangled fishing line, I think when the policy, at least what we thought was the policy, came out, it came out at about noontime
Right,
on a night we had games.
right.
And that, that created some difficulties for people who didn't know about it, and so, if nothing else, I think we've shown that we can kind of pivot quickly on this. So again, if we can come up with something that is agreeable, I'd like to do it as soon as possible.
so, Bob, I think what was presented a couple weeks ago was good. It was good on paper. I wasn't opposed to it. It's not about what is proposed, it's how it's implemented. And as much as we need spectators and family members and visitors to follow the rules, we also need adults in the room, athletic staff, teachers, people you hire, however you need to do it, to gently remind people not to get into confrontations. So I'm less concerned about what you propose. I'm more concerned about the implementation.
Follow through.
I'm also concerned that we say we're going to do something and then not do it. Right? So, because the easy thing is to just continue to follow, because it was said on January 4th that it was a TVL policy and that it would be in place for 2 weeks. And we're right up against the 2 weeks, I guess, today.
Yeah,
Actually,
it was
yeah.
at a school committee
So,
meeting.
yes, today.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
today. So we are now still within 4 hours of having the policy. So I am not looking to keep people out of the games, but I'm looking for some sort of commitment and demonstration by our staff, hoping for cooperation from our community members to do their job to help enforce the rules in a very gentle, discreet, professional manner.
Yeah, and one of the things, I had an opportunity to speak with Derek Finney today. And, one of the things that they're looking at is just additional staff, having more, a couple more people to monitor
Sure.
those aspects.
I think that's reasonable.
I mean, I guess the way I would look at it is, again, literally that day, that Tuesday, I think that evening, we had planned on having a conversation.
That's right.
About what we were going to do
Right,
because
and,
of the
there
lack,
was a memo.
because of the lack of enforcement of the existing mask policy. And where we had left it, I think where our conversation had been was, okay, we are going to have to evaluate this if we can't see improvement in enforcement. There's part of me that says that that's basically where we are. If the TVL is not a policy, or if the policy has expired, because I think just the simple fact that a few schools chose to not follow it because they didn't vote for it themselves defeats the whole league mindset, but whatever. So I think from my perspective, and Robin and Stephen chime in, I am comfortable with whatever proposal and you executing that proposal without some emergency meeting or vote from us. However, whatever that proposal is, the enforcement of it, we've got 3 days.
Right, we have the systems in place.
Right,
to
and
make sure.
we're now seeing whether we can adhere to what we say we're going to do.
Mhm.
So it's whatever day, whether it's tomorrow, Thursday, fine either way. But that's when the expectation, at least from me and I think from the committee, is we're actually going to do what we're saying we're going to do.
That's correct. I support that.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, on to our superintendent's report.
I think we're getting round 2 of Mr. Wigan.
Come on down, Terry.
So in your packet, you have a preliminary, what I'm calling a preliminary capital improvement plan. One of the reasons I'm calling it a preliminary capital improvement plan is there's still some work to be done, particularly in the area of technology. It's just there's a lot of good work being done on that, and I'd rather than, arbitrarily cut it off, I wanted the work to continue. Most of the list that's on this plan ties in with the list they're currently working on, but there are some nuances, and that's why I'm still calling this preliminary. So we have made a few adjustments. If you're looking at the color document, the green items, if you will, are the 3 items that were approved this fall, and they are actively either being purchased or being installed, but they're going to be dealt with this year. So they will essentially be going away. And of course, up above them are essentially, the SOI and the items that resulted from the study that we did on the roof and the HVAC system. And then you get into some of the things that are regular items for us in the sense of, Chromebook replacements, that sort of thing. I apologize, my glasses are fogging up here a little bit. I did add another new color to this, so to speak. Not another new color, but I did another new highlight. Is that we have Chromebooks in here that are part of the capital plan, but they're also part of our budget. So they're Chromebooks we always replace as part of the budget. The servers have popped up to be a fairly high need. Well, that's probably me being a little too gentle. They are very high need. We really need to go after one this year, and I think there's a total of 3 servers that we're going to need to get over the next 2 to 3 years. They're about $50,000 a piece. They're not inexpensive, which always puts me in a state of shock because I can remember when I bought them for $7. So that is something that is one of the critical needs. Another critical need that you've heard about before is the skid steer Now, when we were buying a open cab summer seasonal skid steer, we were renting one for $2,000 a winter. You know, we made it work. You know, now that's costing us $7,200. And the price, we've already been told, is probably going to go up next year. Well, quite honestly, I can buy a skid steer that's a 4-season skid steer, and I can show a payback for that. And I can have I can have it all year round. I can have full functionality. I can use it for things that I would love to have a skid steer for in the summer, but I don't have currently. We've had the discussion before. I don't need to belabor it. And then the other that is really kind of popping up for us is we have a 2011 pickup truck that we use for plowing. It's basically on its last legs. It's been on its last legs. We've had it on the list. Again, nothing new. What we're suggesting is, again, that be replaced with a new pickup truck with a plow and a sander, and a dump body. And again, that's something that's a 4-season use. You take the sander off, you can use the dump body to do different things over the course of the summer. There is one new item on the list down towards the bottom. And I put it down towards the bottom rather deliberately, and that is the parking lot for this building is getting to the point where you're starting to see cracks and crevices. And it really needs to be resurfaced. And of course, if you resurface it, then it needs to be relined. A very crude estimate at the moment, okay, would be that that's about an $86,000 bill for both the resurfacing and the lining. We're trying to get some more refined estimates from some vendors, but that'll give you a crude number right at the moment. And the only other thing I would point out is many of the vehicles that are on here in particular, you will note that one of my frustrations with this document since I've been here is that the Capital Planning Committee, and I understand why, but they've never really identified funding sources. Well, what I tried to do is kind of redo this a little bit and show things like, you know, trucks, fans, buses, etc., on leases, so that they're like, you know, particularly it's hard to say a $55,000 vehicle is a smaller ticket item, but it is compared to 5 buses, and show them like on a 3-year lease with a $1 buyout.
So while you're talking about that, and at some point, and I know you're busy with budget and amongst other things, but could we get at some point in the future a vehicle inventory and kind of an outline? When's the last time we purchased a sped van? Did we do any last year? I don't.
We did none last year. We are getting 2 this year. We are
From where?
We are waiting for the earmark grant to come in, and we will be getting our first 2 flex fuel.
What's the, remind me of what the earmark is?
The earmark is, well, and I haven't come to you yet with the proposal because it will require a little bit of money on your part, but the earmark is for $54,000 for the purchase of vans.
What's the funding source?
The funding source is the state budget. Earmarks are always the state budget.
So is this a green proposal?
It wasn't specifically a green proposal. It was, earmarks a lot of times
The
happen because.
legislature.
I have not seen this before for vehicles.
Not for vehicles, you saw it for the
Yes,
auditorium.
okay.
But a lot of times what will happen is a state rep will come to Mike, sometimes come to the superintendent, and say, is there anything you need?
Mr. Linsky has been very good to this
He
district.
has.
For many,
And-
many years. He's a
and
friend of this district
He
in
is a
town.
very good friend, both, they're very good friends of the
Right, that's
district,
true.
as well as our
That's true.
senator. And basically what happened is, at the time, we were putting forward a proposal for vans, and Mr. Kaczynski said, you know, I know that the school would like to move its fleet to electric vans, okay? And so if we got an earmark so that we could do something like that, that'd be great. So indeed, we got the earmark. We're actually waiting for our first deposit funds to come in, and then we'll actually make the purchase. There are no truly full electric vans available yet.
Right.
It'll probably be a year out. There is, and I actually, when I was in Florida, I had the chance to test drive it, a hybrid electric gas van that is available. It's great. I mean, it's wonderful. It'll hold up well. It'll do well for our students. And so, and it is on state bid.
So when was the last time we purchased with district funds a sped van?
I think it was 2 years ago, if I remember correctly.
See, we had done a lot of work, and I'm starting to see in the bills, whatever the garage is called,
Chris is towing.
yeah, whatever that, we're starting to see them and some of the fleets aging.
Yep.
And we had really worked ourselves into a decent
Yep.
and robust replacement plan. And obviously, when we're short of funds and we're trying to keep staff on board, that is precedent, but.
Well, we'll get this out to you, because we're doing the final touches on it, but that's what's right here. And what we've done is.
Is that this?
No,
Oh, is that the vehicle
this is
inventory?
just vehicles.
Okay, that's,
When I say vehicles, this is going to have for you, this has
Everything.
the transportation vehicles, it has the maintenance vehicles, it has the mowers.
perfect.
The tractors, everything. And what we've done is we, for example, tried to calculate where it's applicable things like what's the standard depreciation, what are the years past depreciation, the average annual mileage that the vehicle puts on. And then we've tried to calculate out, sort of where we would estimate the replacement would be. And if it's, for example, like the buses are always typically a 5-year lease, it would go through town meeting. Vans can be a 3-year lease, which of course you folks have control of if you have the funds.
But I think we've slipped a little bit in the last couple of years. It would be nice to, that earmark will help,
Yep.
but that's not, we can't just rest on our laurels. We have
No.
to, and I know there's a lot of conversation around capital and vehicles, but I just want to make sure we don't get ourselves in a position where we can't transport kids because our vans are down
Right.
and we don't have a backup, which has happened in the past, and the vehicles were in deplorable condition, and our drivers shouldn't be forced to drive in, in vehicles that are breaking down and are not good.
I can't agree with you more. And of course, the other two things that are out there, which we've heard nothing about, but the bill is passed, and it's still, obviously, they're working on how it's going to work, is that there is money in the infrastructure bill for electric buses,
That'd be
full-size
nice.
buses. How that's going to work, we don't know yet. And there's also money for electric vans. So those two things still play out, that there
Sure.
may be some federal money available as well. And of course, if there is, we're going to take advantage of it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So there's two real questions before you. One is simply to approve this, and if you were to approve it, as I say, I'd approve it as a preliminary FY23 capital improvement plan. And then if there is anything specifically you want to put out for a warrant article, that's where I left you blanks. You could choose what I've offered up as my top 3. You could have 3 of your own. You could have 6 of your own. We can make this work any way you want. You could have none.
And this would be to put 3 as a warrant article outside of the capital.
No, this would be.
This would be
when I
our
say warrant
priority.
Our
articles,
priority for capital.
it's part of the
Okay.
capital warrant.
Okay.
I say it as warrant articles, but it is really what you would put into what you would propose
So
at the
our
capital planning
priority
committee.
for- okay.
Yes,
Gotcha.
yes. And by the way, the definition we use, I did check with the town, because I thought they were using a new definition. They have not chosen one yet. So we're still using what has been used here for a while, which is anything that costs more than $5,000 and has a useful life of more than 1 year. That's our definition.
More than 5 and more than 1 year, right?
More than 5 and more than 1 year,
Okay.
which covers a lot of ground. You
Yeah.
could, I think the town was thinking 10 and 2, which is, not a bad definition either.
You guys good? Madam Chair,
Mr. Catalano.
I move that the Millis School Committee approve the preliminary FY23 capital improvement plan as presented, and that it recommend the following items be placed on the Millis annual town meeting warrant for consideration by the voters. Number one would be the skid steer. Number two would be server replacement. Number three would be the pickup truck with attachments. And fourth, the John Deere tractor.
Second.
I would say, Terry, I threw the tractor on. If you're in conversations and it's looking like that's not even close to being a starter, feel free to take that off. I think you've outlined the top three, but I figured throw it on there. Gives you the ability to have the conversation with the town administrator and the capital planning.
Well, I didn't really speak about the John Deere, but again, briefly, it's 29 years old. If we don't replace it soon, you know what they say about people over 30. They say the same thing about tractors.
Okay. That's it. I'm good.
Very
with
good.
mine.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. All in
you.
favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
The joke is more than 30 years old.
All right, what we have next are preliminary budget discussion. Would you like to
Yeah,
chat some more about?
it doesn't really need to be long, and we didn't give you a new document because it really had one significant change. The good news is good news, in that the student services folks did another look at this year's out-of-district tuitions, and they came up with, I think this year it looks like we may get savings of $166,000 from what was originally planned. That's good news for this year.
End of the year savings,
End of the year savings.
which would allow us to prepay.
That's what we're looking at hopefully this year. Now, what that translates into next year is I redid the red, white, and blue sheet, and I not only took those savings, but then I added back in about, I think it was around $63,000, sounds right, for potential out-of-district increases, because there will be increases in
Yep.
out-of-district placements. So basically, it netted out that we were able to reduce that number by $106,000. So we're on our way in the right direction.
What's the delta now?
4.
456, I think.
After you adjusted for the,
Right, it was, yeah,
it wasn't at 600 or something?
It's
500.
like five.
570.
Something.
Okay.
Yeah, 5 high.
Yeah, we.
We're getting there.
We're getting there.
20%
And,
of the way there.
$6,000 every 2 weeks.
Yeah, so I
Right.
mean,
Right,
and again, we're still, that's an area that's still being looked at.
okay.
I know we had a good administrative discussion with some creative ideas. Not all of them were necessarily savings, but some of them were, I think, creative ways to deliver services. And again, I think if we decide to go forward with some of those, you'll obviously hear about them as part of the budget process. But I think everybody is throwing everything, on the table and trying to look at things. I know the tech folks, as I mentioned in the capital improvement memo, are looking at seeing, okay, is this a year that we can maybe step back and maybe we don't need to make the replacements that we've made normally, but their warning would be that if that takes place, we have to make sure that then 2 years from now, in the FY24 budget, we are making those replacements again, because you can do it for a year, but you can't do it forever. So there's those types of things that folks are looking at. And, I've always been proud of the administrative team here, and I'm proud again that once again they're stepping up, and, the new and old members are all kind of looking at this like, okay, what can I do to help solve this problem? So that's one of the reasons that we're very proud of our administrative team, because they always step up.
While you're still up there, can I ask you one other question? I know we've had this conversation in the past, but we are still paying the fringe benefits for the extended day staff as separate. And this goes back 20 plus years when they talked about the extended day as a parent-run kind of consortium. There are employees. So I'm wondering why we are, and if there is any benefit to, or if it causes more problems, why are they not, their fringe benefits not part of
The town?
the town?
I know there's a couple of things on fringe benefits I'm going to explore. I'll be honest with you, I had forgotten to explore that aspect, but I will explore it as well. I will say that my guess is, and I'm not going to guess.
Okay.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to say we'll explore it.
And this is the mindset that's in that could be in town hall, that was in the previous administration, that they are just kind of, it's a private program. No, there are employees, right? And we pay them.
Right.
So I don't understand. Maybe this is easier for you. I don't know. I don't want to create more work for you, but it just seems odd that we are treating a subset of our 100+ employees differently when it comes to their fringe benefits.
Yeah, I would say let me answer it this way, in a accounting way, so to speak. In other states, where, in even other districts, where extended day is part of the school system, where here it's got a kind of quasi-relationship between school and town. One of the reasons that you pay benefits out of any revolving fund, extended day, food service, any revolving fund, is because you want the revolving fund to basically support the entire cost of its operation. So I would speculate that that was when extended day was set up, that the intention was that they wanted to make sure that if it was going to be profitable, so to speak, it could support all of its operating costs, including benefits. Whereas, because it's not a required program. All right. Whereas, obviously, the school, okay, the teachers, the paras, that whole group,
That makes sense.
we're required to have that. And whether or not, of course, we don't charge any tuition, but even if we did, we would still be required to do that under the law. So the town would be obligated to pick up those benefits.
Okay. So just take a look at it. If this makes sense to continue to do it this way, so be it.
Yep. Okay. Let's see. Was that it?
Anything else? Is that it?
Go back, sit down again.
Yeah. Thanks, Terry.
Thank you.
And then we have our January enrollment.
Yeah, not much new here. We had one student exit the high school, 2 new students enter the middle school, and Clyde Brown stayed the same. So increase of 1 student to the district. We had one choice, one formerly choice student who moved. Right now we're at 75 choice students.
Looks like everything on our agenda for now. We have executive session.
We do.
We do?
Yeah,
I think I
you'll
see
be
it.
brief.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Conroy.
I make a motion that we adjourn to executive session, not to return to open session for the purposes of contract negotiations for union and non-union personnel.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Roll.
No, it's a roll
Oh,
call.
roll call. Sorry. Mr. Catalano.
Yes.
Mr. Conroy.
Yes.
And I am also a yes. We are adjourned until February 1st. See you